Hello, this is Yazan, and I'm making this video to help you more understand what you have to do in project phase 2. This is what you have to deliver. Um, and I have here a good example from um, previous classes. So if you go to week 8, you can see the instructions about phase number 2. First of all, this worth 50 points out of the 250 points for the project. So this worth 5% of your final grade. And so first of all, you have to understand that here we just applying what we have learned in chapter 1, 2, and 3 in your textbook. The first thing that you have to construct histograms for data on 5 variables. So you need 5 variables. And you have to pick 1 year for the 150 countries. But you don't have to show the 150 countries, you have to group them. And you have to include descriptive statistics with each histogram, those descriptive statistics from chapter 3. You have to remember the histogram should not show a bar per country, so not each country we group in. And they should show bars based on bins you find based on the data, so you have to group your data. Okay, so over here, those are the country data project. And chart 1, we have variables in the year 2000. So over here, we picked year 2000. Okay, so year 2000. And here, we try the first histogram is population in 2000. And we have number of countries here, so this is the frequency. And those are the number of people categorized. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so like 10 million. From 0 to 10 million, there's almost 98 countries. And then larger population, there are less countries, and so on. The total of the countries should be 150. Descriptive statistics over here, you should show me the mean, standard error, median, mode, standard deviation, sample variance, kurtosis sequence, skewness, range, minimum, maximum, sum, and count. In chapter 3, I showed you how to get those numbers in a really easy way using Excel tool. So this should not take a lot of time. Okay, then this is the other variable, is number of peepholes in primary school for 156 countries in 2000. So those are the that was the population. Now there's number of people in primary school. Okay, and then the descriptive for those. Now number 3 is a crude birth rate in 2000. So this is the birth rate only in the year 2000 on the y-axis. On the vertical axle, we have the number of countries. This is the frequency. You know how to get this through count. And on the x-axis, the horizontal, we have the birth rate per 1,000 people. So this should be one of the variables in your data. Just pay attention that your data might be different, so you have to pick a different variable. This is just an example. And again, those are the descriptive statistics. The fourth variable is the GDP per capita. Most of you have this variable. And we have now on the x-axis, we group the GDP and the number of countries. You can see like most countries are actually poor countries. The GDP per capita is less than between 0 and 5,000. So like they're like 125, almost 125 countries are like poor countries. Their GDP less than 5,000. Those are descriptive statistics. Agricultural land in 2000, same thing. The agricultural land in square per kilometer. And you can see like most countries really have poor agricultural land. descriptive statistics. Then this is the second part. Let me go back to the blackboard. Is a histogram for one of your variables, non-geographic, and all 150 countries that shows the difference across 30 years. Only requires 2 years. So you have to choose like a first year and then and like for example, if you choose 1970, then the second year should be like 2000. And this is like to compare two different variables. I'm sorry, same variable for 2 distinct years to see like was there any difference. The goal is do this with a single histogram. And I will accept bar chart here, column chart, I'm sorry. So one variable, 2 points in time, and one histogram. Okay. So going back here, we have now this histogram, and there's 2 variables. So there's the GDP per capita, 79 versus 2000. Okay, and you can see the GDP how it differs. Like in 79 there was like more poor countries than in the 2009. So actually countries are becoming wealthier. We can see like poor countries that their GDP per capita was less than 5,000. In 79 was almost 100. In 2009 there's like 65. So this is a good indication, and so on. Descriptive statistic, and over here there's another one. It's the population, the changing population. You can see like the population is increasing in countries. You can see in 79 in 70 we have less people than what we have in 2000. Most countries increasing their population. And their descriptive statistic. 10 country time series charts. So time series charts for 5 variables, 5 separate charts across 30 years with 10 countries. Okay, so over here we have 10 country time series. The first one is a population from 71 to 2000, and here are the countries that we're picking in this presentation: Brazil, Canada, China, Japan, Kenya, and so on. And you can see that the data here is nice data. There's no discontinuity, so try to pick a variable that shows a line that is not disconnected, and this is from 1971 to 2001. Now we have accrued birth rate, same thing for the same countries from 71 to 2000. Accrued death rate also. And number 5 is the surface area. Obviously, most countries did not change in the surface area. Five scatter plots that show 2 variables plotted together for 150 countries for a single year. Include a trend line or curve of best fit with equation and R-square value. The best fit each plot include descriptive statistic for each variable. Ensure each graphic is self-explanatory and include brief observation at the bottom of each slide. So we have 5 different charts, 2 variables, and all the countries for each chart. Plot one variable versus the second. One should be measured the x-axis, the other on the y-axis. Include descriptive for each variable. So we have now comparison scatter plot. We have now birth to death rate, and you can see here that one of them is have that. So over here you have to find the trend line of the curve that best fit, and here it was a trend line, but for the other variable it was the curve. And we have the equation and the R-square. And description, there's a slight correlation between birth rate and death rate. In addition, the death rate seems to usually be about half as much as the birth rate. So on this one, like, we included both. You can just leave one of them, like either the linear or the curve. And descriptive statistic. Then over here, the surface area to population, and this is the trend line, and some description about what's going on. There's a very little correlation between the population, obviously, and the surface area of a country. You can see the equation R squared. Descriptive statistic. Then over here we have agricultural land to urban population. So we have the equation R squared, and there doesn't appear to be any correlation between the percentage of the population and the urban areas and the amount of agricultural land in the country. Obviously, this is almost horizontal, like you hardly find any relationship between those two variables. Descriptive statistic. Then number 4, the life expectancy of GDP per capita in 2002. Now, in this graph, included both the curve and the line, the equation, the R square. Look over here, like for the curve, we have really nice R square, it's 0.65. There appears to be an exponential correlation between GDP per capita and life expectancy. Like if you're wealthier, you probably have a longer life according to this graph. So this is like a nice comment. And last thing is the descriptive statistic for that. The fifth graph, the duration of a primary to secondary education. So this is the duration of secondary, and this is the primary. So duration of years in a primary school to years in secondary school has a negative correlation. Is that the more years in secondary school, the less years typically spent in a primary school, and vice versa. And then the equation, the R square, is kind of low. And then last thing, the descriptive statistic for those. So I hope like you will be able to construct and put together a nice presentation like this. This will help you to understand how important, like after you collect data, investigate it, how to present it to an audience. And try please to make it organized so I can follow you up and grade you the way you deserve. Thank you.